An onion can be sliced either pole to pole or orbitally, and the direction chosen can have a substantial effect on the dish. Conclusions up front. Orbital slices rupture more onion cells and yield a very oniony aroma, or stench, some may call it, an uneven wormy texture, and they'll probably make you cry more. On the other hand, pole-to-pole sliced onions will rupture less cells, leading to a less oniony aroma, more uniform structure, and they'll make you cry less while cutting them. One isn't inherently good or bad, but I use pole-to-pole slices for about 95% of my onion applications.
Slicing onions is something that we do countless times as home cooks, so we better understand how they work. Today I'm going to cover the differences between slicing orbitally or pole to pole, and then run 3 different experiments across an Oklahoma onion burger, some pickled onions, and finally some caramelized onions to show those differences in practice. Let's break it down.
So the way that we slice an onion affects both taste and texture. And as mentioned in On Food and Cooking, strong smelling sulfurous molecules are what give the onion its distinctive flavor and taste. Specifically, the key sulfur product in the onion is called the lacrimator, and this is released when we cut them. It is also the chemical responsible for making our eyes water, but how does the direction of the cut influence how lacrimators are released? Well, as pointed out in the food lab, onion cells are not symmetrical. They're actually longer in pole to pole than orbital, meaning that orbital cuts rupture more onion cells, releasing more lacrimators, meaning more eye-watering and more oniony taste. And this is really the crux of the matter when it comes down to it. Orbital cuts rupture more onion cells. So now that we understand the theory, let's put it to the test. First, I recreated an experiment from the food lab where I sliced one onion pole to pole and one orbital, then placed them both in a container to sit for about 10 minutes or so. After the time was up, I smelled them, and here are my thoughts.
All right, so these have been sitting out for probably 15 or 20 minutes at this point. I've got the pole to pole sliced here and then the orbital ones here, so let's give them a quick sniff. So yeah, I mean, it smells like onions still. I wouldn't say it's very onion-like forward, but I mean, obviously it still smells like onions. It's not like the way you slice it just makes it not smell like onions anymore. But let's compare it to this one. Oh yeah. Yeah, this one, way more oniony. I actually got a little kind of feeling in my eyes there once I got up into this one. And you can really tell that there is a difference in how these smell. This one is definitely more onion forward. And this one, it kind of takes a second. Like, yes, it still smells like onions, but it kind of takes a second to get there. And that's, again, due to those onion cells disrupted. So super quick, experiment you can run in your kitchen just to kind of help see those examples. But I think the more interesting part here is to actually use some of this stuff in practice. So we're going to run through 3 different food kind of preparations and see how they stack up against each other.
First up on the experiment list are pickled onions, and I sliced one half of the same onion orbitally, then filled up the jar, and while cutting these I was definitely getting some irritation in my eyes. Then I sliced the other onion half pole to pole and filled up the other jar, and I followed my standard procedure by pouring boiling mixture of equal parts water and vinegar over the top. Then I let both jars cool in the fridge for a couple hours and brought them out. In terms of taste, the acidity of the vinegar is really the dominant feature, and since it's been a couple hours, the oniony taste is pretty dulled down, so I didn't really pick up on any large differences. However, when it comes to texture, here are my thoughts.
Not gonna lie, I kind of forgot how bad the texture on the orbital ones are. Especially for pickled onions, they're really there's something off-putting about them. It's partially because of that slant feature you get from the round. You get this weird slant it's not uniform, and it's kind of wormy, and it's actually kind of a little bit gross. I kind of forgot how bad they are like that.
Like I was saying, I really don't like the texture of the slices like this. There's some of those large curves in these circular slices, and they have this kind of slanted cut that is just off-putting to me. But now, let's make a burger. Next up on the experiment is the Oklahoma onion burger, and this is the burger that has been popularized by George Motz, and it's one you've got to try. In all the preparations that I've seen, it uses thinly cut orbital slices, but I decided to test it. I sliced an onion in half, took a mandolin, and then got super thin slices from pole to pole and orbital. Then I smash the burgers down on the griddle, place both types of onions on them, flip them, cheese them up, and what's beautiful about this burger is how the onions cook right into it. I slid the onion patties on the bun and gave them a taste test. Listen in.
All right, so we got both burgers. I have the pull-to-pull and the Orbital ones here. And consistently, when I was mandolin slicing them, was getting some irritation in my eyes with the Orbital ones. Again, probably due to releasing more lacrimators. But let's give these things a shot. This is pretty awesome, to be honest, just being able to taste test 2 onion burgers. Let's go. On to burger 2, see how they compare. I just gotta pause here. This is what makes this burger so good. Cheese, crispy burger, and then those onions. Whew. Okay, so these aren't like massively different, but again, I think this one is definitely more onion forward, and that's the Orbital cut ones. And I think that's really what you're looking for in the, the Oklahoma onion burger. You want that kind of onion, like, stench, if you call it that. Like, that's kind of what makes the burger so good compared with the cheese and the beef and all that. That being said, I do kind of like the texture of these onions a little bit more, and that's definitely one of the main reasons why I use this one so much more. The pull-to-pull cut I'm talking about. From pickled onions to any cooking processes, I generally use this all the time. But lastly, we're gonna walk through some caramelized onions and then round this video out.
Lastly, let's talk about cooking down onions. Again, for the same reasons, if caramelizing or cooking sliced onions for French onion soup, fajitas, or whatever, I think pull-to-pull is the move, but I did do 2 test batches of each and cook them down slowly for about 45 minutes. From my perspective, the pull-to-pull onions cook down into almost a jam that really just melts in your mouth, while the Orbital ones kind of have this wormy feel to them that I'm not a fan of. In terms of taste, I definitely noticed they were different as well. The pull slices really just melt into that sweet caramelized goodness, while the Orbital definitely has more notes of that onion forwardness. Now, in conclusion, one slice is not inherently right or wrong. You just need to understand when to use one or the other based on your preference, and for me, it's pull-to-pull about 95% of the time.